All right, do you want to see the next part? I'll show you the next part. So let me just so for here, if you want to make the bump out on the base, like the toe kick, what you do is if this is your overall width and depth, then the toe kick might come in 2 or 3 inches. You can put it right here as a reference line. So that way, if I draw a new dimension from the reference line to the exterior face, I make a new label and call it base depth. And make your base depth, let's call it 3 inches. You could always change it later, right? So now I have this new reference line, and I go and I draw my new extrusion towards it, right? So here, because there's already one extrusion on top of those reference lines, I'm actually going to draw this one inside, and I'm just going to use the align tool to make sure that I'm grabbing the reference points to lock it. So rather than accidentally grabbing this face, I'm going to grab the reference line to align the box to the object. You press check, and you see that it's the default. They're overlapping, and they're 1 foot tall. So if I go to the front, I make a new reference line. So I could click one and to create similar. This one will be 4 inches. So I'll make a new parameter and call it base height. Four inches. There it is. So this is my base, and I want it to be that height. Now, these two are overlapping, right? So you go to the reference line, grab the bigger object, bring it up. It's not going to like that, right? So when you move it, you can do remove constraints. Pull it up and away. Wait, what's happening? Oh, sorry. That was on the plan. I just got confused. Go to the front. Take the bigger piece on the front and bring it up and align it to the base height reference plane. And now there's my base cabinet. If you have two objects that are two extrusions and you want, when you look at it from the left and you want them to be continuous, you could simply use the geometry join tool. So click one object, click the next. Now it's a continuous object, but they're still individually editable. But the way Revit perceives it is continuous. So it's a continuous profile, even though it's separate objects, because they're now joined geometries. So I can press save. Yes, override, load into project and close, override existing and its parameters. So now when I go to, you can see it in the elevation here, there's the kick. And if I go into my floor plan, elevation, there's the kick right there. So if you want as a reference to know what a populated Revit family looks like this. So if you loaded one in from Revit, insert load Autodesk family, we have a triple cabinet, so base cabinet, 3 drawers, right? You press load. So now I have to go to level 1, go to architecture, component, and it shows up like this. I believe what I'm pointing at is the back of the cabinet it starts at. I could be wrong. Yeah, that's the back of the cabinet. So this is how ours looks, right? And this is how Revit's default looks. So why does Revit's default have dotted lines? Because if I'm looking, and if I double click and click, I can either double click or click edit family. If I look at it, it has more detail. This is technically what's called a sweep. So it's made out of create sweep. So this is one of the forms that it's using. So a sweep is if you take a profile and you move that profile along a path, that's called a sweep. So you're sweeping or pushing the extrusion, but the extrusion is along a line, right? So weirdly enough, instead of just making separate rectangles, it's actually just made out of a long linear rectangle that's pushed along this floor rectangle. So for example, if I edited this profile, just to show you what a sweep is, gave it a little bump over here, right? It takes that bump or that shape, whatever that profile is, and pushes it all the way around. So they also have the faceplate and handles, but they made almost the same thing that we did. Theirs is just a hollow drawer for whatever reason. So the reason why this in plan looks different is because when I look at that object in plan in the family, see how these lines are kind of gray? It's because technically, if I go to the left-hand side, they've actually modified the graphics of that object. So you can actually go to visibility graphics on any object, and it's telling me that it actually won't show up in any of the plans that we look at it in our Revit model. They hid it, right? So I could do the same thing if I wanted to. If I went to our family, I can grab any object, go to visibility graphics, and I could actually hide the object, so I'll never see it in plan. Or I'll never see it when I look at it in the front. If I do that, now it's that gray line. So the trick is that in the cabinet that Revit makes, it's actually using annotation lines on the plan view or the reference view, and they're using symbolic lines. And what they do is they've made a rectangle, and those lines are actually, if you look at the line types, are hidden lines projection, because we're not cutting through those cabinets. So that means it's a projection and not a cut. So if I don't have them over there, if I have them over here, that's what it looks like. Right? So these lines are just drawn on top of the object, and the object is technically turned off when we're looking at the plans. So if I load it back into the project, it still shows up just the same. However, now our object has the hidden line. So when you look at things like this, right? Or you look at other types of families, whatever's in your project, a lot of the times when we're looking at like this toilet, whenever you load things into the project, Each family has the same setup, except notice the model for this toilet is all actually hidden in plan. The only thing we're actually seeing in plan are these detail lines. We're not actually seeing the 3D components of the toilet. Those are actually hidden in the family. Otherwise, we'd get more lines than we need. So it's controlling the graphic representation of the toilet to be more simplified. Does that make sense? I also made this bookcase in the last class to show as an example. So if I wanted to add these panels here onto this surface, how would I do it? You guys want to take a stab at it?
Easier way than just drawing like 1,000 reference lines, mentioning, extruding out front.
So there's like a hit and miss between that. You can, if you know that you're never changing the height of your base cabinets, right? They're always going to be the same height. Then you wouldn't really need the reference lines because then you would just dimension them from there. But the reason for the reference lines is to have more control because you can lock those dimensions. So by that I mean, in the example here, I go to the front face. The way that this is set up is that you have your overall height. You actually have a locked height of your top cabinet. And then it's assuming this cabinet, no matter what the height is equal. If I increase this to unrealistically 3 foot high, it actually locked where the bottom two are split. But just to kind of show you for an example, is that if I always know that I want my face door, like your door face, the thing that you're pulling out or drawer or whatever, to be 3/4 inch around the object, I draw the inside reference lines. So no matter what the face is or the height or the width of the cabinet, if I start at my reference line and go to where I want it to project from, right? So if I ever increased this number, it would go this way and not this way. I always want that to be the same. I draw those dimensions all the way around. Bottom, top. And if I grab all of those dimensions, and I lock it, that means no matter what the width is, that panel is going to move with it. I don't technically have to make labels for these sometimes. Like, it doesn't have to be called panel offset. It could just be 1/2 inch and I could lock the dimension string. I'm calling it panel offset because if I ever want to use this family in a new project, all I have to do is just update the panel offset. So like maybe the next time I use this, the panel offset is 3/4 for the next project I work on. And it's not a 1/2 inch. Now I've already made this family adjustable. Technically, this one is less adjustable because that dimension string isn't locked. So I could put on my door, lock it to those things. And now my new door has a thickness, right? But I want it to come out towards me. So I can make a new reference plane. I'll just make it more aggressive, 1/2 inch, and I'll just lock that one as well. Right? So there's the door face. Save. Yes. Load into project. Okay. Override the existing version. So if I go to the level 1, the difference between my kitchen one that I made, and this one is that these don't show the face plates, even though they're separate objects. So what I forgot to do is I forgot to go into my visibility graphics and hide my faceplate. And I got to load it back in. Now I won't see it because I don't need to see it. That's like too small of a detail for me to incorporate into the kitchen layout. So here's a perfect example. Say the client really likes their counter heights at exactly 3 feet. And they're going to use a more expensive stone that's 2 inches thick instead of 1.25 inches. Now my cabinet height is different, right? Because if I'm starting at 3 feet and I'm 2 inches less, my base cabinet height has to be 2 foot 10 inches. And now it's automatically updated. If I wanted to have a cabinet next to it using the same family, so maybe this is just a single door like that one, and I want this one to be, what is this one? 1'6". I want this one to be 2 feet. How would I do that? I'll give you a hint. It's very similar to what you would do to a door. You go up to the top here, edit type, duplicate, base cabinet, 24 inches wide. So now my width is 24 inches. That's okay. What happened? That got wider. Do you know why I didn't get wider in the plan? Because I forgot to lock my hidden lines. And do you see how once I duplicated this family, right? Edit, duplicate. What if I wanted a 36-inch wide, super wide door? And now that's 36 inches. Right? Why isn't it 36 inches? It automatically shows up when I press edit family. It shows up here. So there's my regular one, 24, 36. That says 36. That's a super wide door. But on the plan, hidden line still isn't locked. So got to make sure that we lock these. So now we got the 1'6", the 3 foot, and the 2 foot. They're all already set up. Does that make sense? A little bit? Okay. So the other idea is, what if we're putting cabinets on the wall, right? So I'm not going to start from scratch right now, but if you go to Insert, Load Autodesk Family, we're in casework already, and I'm going to find, it's towards the bottom, upper cabinet double door. Load. So now if I go to architecture level, I'm going to go to level 1, component. This one is a wall-based family. So I could only put it on a wall. It's not letting me put it anywhere else but on a wall. So I can place that in. If I look at the elevation, it's right there. So what happens if I want to make this cabinet higher? It's 2'6". Looks like I want to make it 4 feet tall. How do I edit this to be 4 feet tall?
Duplicate it. Get one, then go into the family and change the height.
Yeah. Yeah, I could edit it. Exactly. So I can go to, if I want to make a new one because I'm going to be editing this existing one too much, for example, like I can change the hardware out, things like that. So I can go to Edit Family, File, Save As, Family, and I'll save it with all my other families, except maybe I'll call this upper cabinet double wall. ES for Arrow Saarinen, because I know that that's part of the house now. So it'll be like my edited version, which is great because it actually comes with these little handles, which look pretty close to the ones that are there. I can go into the height here. Height, 2'6", 4'6". That's okay. Load it into my project. Now it's going to ask me to place it. So it looks like there was actually multiple ones in here, and I forgot to pick or note which one I changed. But one of these widths has a different height. This is 24. There you go. And even there, it's 4 feet instead of 4'6". Edit. Now it's 4 feet. So I'm just trying to show you guys the basic objects so that if you wanted to edit this to be different or to match the existing conditions, right, of the Miller house, you could take, because this isn't a 3/4 inch gap, right? These are flat panels, so maybe no gap might look better. So I could actually take this one instead of making my own. I could just edit this family, file, save as, family, base cabinet, 3-drawer, -ES. I'll go into the front elevation. See where it says 3/4? I'm going to delete that reference line. Oh, wait, I'm not going to delete the reference line. I'm going to edit the extrusion of the face cabinets. And I'm going to align it to the outside face here. Right? So see now how that's there. And then the height of this cabinet, what was it, 210? I can go in here, edit, height of that one. Looks like it needs to be 210 exactly. And now it fits underneath the countertop. And if I put one next to it, they're aligned perfectly. So it looks like it's flat. I go to the elevation. It's exactly how I want it to look, maybe, but it's closer, right?